83 seconds. That is exactly how long the silence lasted. 83 seconds of nothing. No words. No movement. No defense. Just the faint hum of the air conditioning and the barely audible click of a camera shutter somewhere in the back of the room. 83 seconds during which Pam Bondi sat frozen behind a mahogany desk, staring at a single sheet of paper as if the ink on it had rewritten her entire life. And if you are watching this right now, understand something. What you are about to hear did not make the evening news. Not a single major outlet ran this story the way it actually happened. They clipped it, they trimmed it, they buried it beneath celebrity gossip and weather forecasts. So if you believe that the truth still matters, I need you to do one thing before we go any further. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, because what happened in that hearing room changes everything. And once you hear it, you will never look at the people in charge the same way again. Let me take you back to the beginning. The hearing was scheduled for 10 in the morning. Room 216 of the Senate office building. A room most people have never seen, with tall ceilings, wood-paneled walls, and fluorescent lights that give everything a slightly clinical glow. By 9:15 the gallery was already packed. Journalists stood shoulder to shoulder along the back wall, notebooks open, pens ready. Camera operators jockeyed for position near the center aisle. There was a particular tension in the air that morning, the kind you feel before a verdict is read. Everyone knew something was coming. They just did not know what. Pam Bondi arrived at 9:42. She walked in flanked by 3 attorneys, each carrying thick leather briefcases. Her posture was upright, almost rehearsed. She wore a dark navy suit and a pearl necklace, and she greeted the committee members with a polished smile that had been perfected over decades of public appearances. As she crossed the hallway leading to the hearing room, a reporter from one of the wire services called out a question about the offshore account allegations. Pam Bondi did not slow down. She did not turn her head, but her lead attorney placed a hand on her lower back and guided her forward just a fraction faster, and that small gesture told you everything about how the morning was going to unfold. She took her seat behind the long witness table, adjusted the microphone, and poured herself a glass of water from the crystal pitcher in front of her. She looked calm, controlled, as if this was just another Tuesday. Her lead attorney leaned in and whispered something. She nodded once, slowly, and folded her hands on the table. From the outside, everything about her projected confidence. But if you looked closely at her hands, and the cameras did, you could see the faintest tremor in her left index finger. A tiny, involuntary movement that betrayed something no amount of coaching could hide. At exactly 10:03, Hakeem Jeffries entered the room. He did not rush. He did not make eye contact with the gallery. He walked to his designated seat on the raised platform with the kind of deliberate calm that immediately told you he had done this before. But what everyone noticed, what every single camera in that room zoomed in on, was the object he carried. A thin blue folder. Not a binder. Not a stack of papers. A single, slim, almost delicate blue folder. He set it down on the desk in front of him with a soft tap. That tap echoed. In a room full of whispers and shuffling papers, that single tap cut through like a gunshot. Pam Bondi glanced at the folder. Then she looked away. Then she looked back at it again. And that was the first crack. The chairman gavelled the session to order at 10:07. Opening statements were brief. 2 other committee members asked preliminary questions, softballs really, about budgets and staffing and departmental timelines. Pam Bondi answered each one with the fluid precision of someone who had been briefed for days. She cited figures. She referenced reports. She even managed a few moments of warmth, nodding thoughtfully and saying she shared the committee's concerns. For the first 20 minutes, it looked like a routine hearing. The kind of thing that ends with handshakes and no headlines. Then it was Hakeem Jeffries' turn. He did not begin with a question. He began with a date. March 14th. He said it quietly, almost conversationally, as if he were mentioning the weather. March 14th. He let it hang in the air for a moment. Then he opened the blue folder. Not all the way. Just enough to glance at the first page. He asked Pam Bondi if that date meant anything to her. She paused. A brief pause, maybe 2 seconds, but in a hearing room 2 seconds feels like an eternity. She said she would need more context. He nodded. Of course. Context. He said he would be happy to provide context. And that is when everything changed. He explained that on March 14th, a wire transfer of $612,000 was routed through an offshore account. The account had been opened just 11 days prior. The transfer was flagged by an internal auditor, but the flag was removed within 72 hours. No explanation was logged. No supervisor signed off on the removal. The only digital fingerprint left behind was a login timestamp from a terminal inside the department's own headquarters. He read the timestamp aloud. 9:14 p.m. on a Wednesday. He looked up from the folder and asked Pam Bondi who in her department would have been logged into that terminal at 9:14 on a Wednesday evening. Pam Bondi blinked. She turned to her attorney. The attorney leaned in. There was a whisper. Then another whisper. Then silence. Hakeem Jeffries waited. He did not press. He did not repeat the question. He simply sat there, pen in hand, watching. 7 seconds passed. Then 12. Then 19. Pam Bondi finally spoke. She said she could not recall the specific staffing schedule for that date, and would need to consult with her team. Hakeem Jeffries wrote something in the margin of the folder. He did not respond to her answer. He simply moved on. And that was calculated. Because what he did next was worse. He referenced a second transfer. This one dated April 29th, a different offshore account, but routed through the same intermediary bank. The amount this time was $847,000. He noted that the intermediary bank had been the subject of a federal investigation 2 years earlier for facilitating undisclosed payments to government-affiliated entities. That investigation was quietly closed. No charges were filed. The closing memo, he said, bore a recommendation signature from someone inside Pam Bondi's own office. He asked if she was aware of that signature. Pam Bondi's jaw tightened. You could see the muscles in her neck shift. She said she had no knowledge of any such memo. Hakeem Jeffries reached into the blue folder and pulled out a single photocopied page. He held it up, not dramatically, but just enough for the cameras to see the redacted lines and the one unredacted signature block at the bottom. He asked if she recognized the title listed next to that signature. She did not answer immediately. Her lead attorney placed a hand on her arm. Now I need to stop right here. I need to pause this story for just a moment, because what you are watching right now is not entertainment. This is not scripted drama. This is a record of what happens when someone with the right questions and the right documents sits across from power and refuses to blink. And if you want these stories to keep reaching people, if you believe that this kind of truth deserves an audience, then I need your help right now. Hit the like button. Press the hype button underneath this video. Share it with one person. Just one. Because the algorithm decides what people see, and your single click is the difference between this reaching 10,000 people or 10 million. This is not about views. This is about making sure the next document that surfaces does not get buried. Now let me get back to what happened next. Because it gets worse. Hakeem Jeffries moved to a third piece of evidence. A set of deleted files recovered from a departmental server during a routine IT audit. The files had been erased on May 3rd, but the metadata showed they were originally created on February 18th, a full 3 weeks before the first wire transfer. He explained that the contents of those files included internal communications discussing what was referred to only as the contingency allocation. No further description. No project code. No budget line item. Just the contingency allocation. He asked Pam Bondi what the contingency allocation referred to. For the first time in the hearing, Pam Bondi reached for her glass of water. She took a slow sip. She placed the glass back down. She said she was not familiar with that specific term. Hakeem Jeffries nodded again. He said he found that interesting, because one of the recovered files contained a calendar invitation sent from Pam Bondi's own office email to 4 recipients, whose names had been redacted at the department level. The calendar invitation was titled Contingency Allocation Review. It was scheduled for February 21st at 3 p.m. The room shifted. You could hear it. The low murmur from the gallery. The slight creak of chairs as journalists leaned forward. One of the other committee members glanced sideways at Hakeem Jeffries with an expression that sat somewhere between surprise and recognition. Pam Bondi's second attorney opened a briefcase and began rifling through papers. The lead attorney whispered again. Pam Bondi did not look at either of them. She was staring straight ahead, at nothing in particular, with the kind of stillness that only comes when someone is calculating every possible exit and finding none. Hakeem Jeffries continued. He referenced a fourth item. A classified memo dated June 11th, distributed to a restricted list of 7 recipients within the department. The memo outlined a proposed restructuring of oversight protocols that would have effectively removed 2 layers of financial review from the department's discretionary spending. He noted that if such a restructuring had been implemented, transfers like the ones he had just described would no longer require secondary approval. He asked Pam Bondi whether she had read, approved, or contributed to that memo. Pam Bondi swallowed. The camera caught it. A hard, visible swallow that moved her pearl necklace a fraction of an inch. She said she would need to review the specific document before commenting. Hakeem Jeffries said he would be happy to provide her a copy. He reached into the blue folder once more. But this time, the folder was empty. He looked at it. Then he looked at Pam Bondi. And he said something that will stay with me for a very long time. He said, "That is the problem, is it not? The documents keep disappearing." He closed the folder. He placed both hands flat on the desk. And he said nothing else. He yielded his time. Just like that. No dramatic monologue. No closing argument. He simply stopped talking and sat back in his chair as if the silence itself was the verdict. 83 seconds. That is how long Pam Bondi sat motionless after he yielded. Her attorneys whispered. She did not respond to them. The chairman asked if she wished to add anything to the record. She opened her mouth. Then she closed it. Then she asked for a brief recess. The room erupted. Camera shutters fired in rapid bursts. Journalists began typing furiously on their phones. 2 committee members exchanged a look that said more than any press conference ever could. But there was one more detail that most people missed. During the recess, as the gallery began to empty and the camera crews started breaking down their equipment, Pam Bondi walked toward the side exit. Hakeem Jeffries was already standing in the corridor, speaking quietly with a staff member. Their paths crossed for no more than 3 seconds. Pam Bondi did not look at him. Hakeem Jeffries did not look at her. But as she passed, her footsteps slowed for just a fraction of a beat, the way a person's stride falters when they walk past someone who knows the one thing they have spent years trying to hide. Then she kept walking. And he kept talking. And neither of them acknowledged what had just happened. But the staff member standing between them looked down at the floor, as if the weight of what was unspoken in that hallway was heavier than anything that had been said under oath inside the hearing room. And here is what keeps me up at night. This did not come out of nowhere. This was not a lucky break or a last-minute discovery. Hakeem Jeffries spent 11 months building that case. 11 months of FOIA requests, subpoenas, and cross-referencing financial records with server logs and internal calendars. Every question he asked in that room, he already knew the answer to. He was not seeking information. He was sealing exits. One by one. Each document closed the door. Each timestamp locked it. By the time he held up that empty blue folder, Pam Bondi had nowhere left to go. The silence was not confusion. It was recognition. The recognition that every rehearsed answer, every polished deflection, every carefully constructed firewall had just been systematically dismantled in front of the entire nation. And there is one more thing that has not been reported anywhere. During the 11-month investigation, Hakeem Jeffries' team obtained security access logs from the building where the offshore account was administered. Those logs show that on the night of April 28, the night before the second wire transfer, a visitor badge was issued at 11:47 p.m. The badge was checked in but never checked out. The name field on the visitor log was left blank, which according to building management had never happened before in the 12-year history of that facility. Whoever walked into that building just hours before $847,000 moved through an offshore pipeline simply ceased to exist on paper the moment they stepped through the door. This is bigger than one hearing. This is bigger than one person. What happened in that room is a glimpse into how the system actually works behind closed doors. Offshore accounts that appear and vanish within weeks. Wire transfers that get flagged and then mysteriously unflagged. Deleted files that only surface because a single IT auditor refused to look the other way. Classified memos designed to remove the very oversight mechanisms that exist to prevent exactly this kind of thing. This is not a partisan issue. This is not left versus right. This is about whether the institutions that are supposed to serve the public are instead serving themselves. And the answer, based on what came out of that blue folder, is deeply uncomfortable. Now here is where you come in. I started something called the 47 Club. It is a community for people who refuse to look away. Members of the 47 Club get access to extended breakdowns of hearings like this one, early access to document analysis before videos drop, and a private space to discuss what the evidence actually shows. If you want in, the link is in the description below, and it is also pinned in the comments. This is not about followers. This is about building something that holds power accountable, even when the cameras turn off. And before you go, I need to tell you something. Tomorrow morning, there is a closed-door session scheduled. The same committee. The same room. But this time, 3 new witnesses have been called, and I have been told that the documents they are bringing make that blue folder look like a warm-up. The financial figures alone are reportedly 4 times larger than anything discussed today. I cannot say more right now because the details are still under seal. But the moment that session concludes, I will have a full breakdown ready for you. The only way to make sure you see it is to hit subscribe and turn on the bell notification right now. Because if today taught us anything, it is that the truth does not wait. And neither should you.